Frontline Updates, where we delve deep into military strategies and updates from conflict zones. Today, we're discussing the progress of the ongoing special military operation as of September 16, 2024. I'm your host, Sharifa Muhammad MGT.
I'm Colonel A.C. Oguntoye, an infantry officer. Cumulative losses. Since the start of the operation, Ukrainian forces have sustained heavy losses, including 646 aircraft, 283 helicopters, and over 31,622 unmanned aerial vehicles, among other significant military hardware. In the Kursk region, Russian forces continue to repel Ukrainian advances, inflicting further casualties and equipment losses on the Ukrainian forces attempting to penetrate Russian territory.
Welcome to Frontline Updates podcast, where we provide updates from the front lines. Today, we're joined by Colonel A.C. Oguntoye to give us an in-depth look at the progress of the special military operation as of September 16, 2024. Colonel, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I'm here to provide a detailed update on the ongoing operations.
Let's get straight into it. Can you give us an overview of what's happened over the last 24 hours during the operation?
Yes, over the past 24 hours, Russian forces have continued to make progress on multiple fronts. We've engaged Ukrainian forces in several key regions, including Liptsov, Volchansk, and the Donetsk People's Republic. Across these fronts, we've successfully repelled Ukrainian counterattacks and inflicted heavy losses on their personnel and military equipment.
Let's break that down by regions. Starting with the North Group of forces, what happened there?
In the north, our forces engaged the 36th Marine Brigade and the 125th and 127th Territorial Defense Brigades in the Liptsov and Volchansk directions in the Kharkiv region. We inflicted significant losses on Ukrainian forces, with up to 70 servicemen and 2 vehicles destroyed. This allowed us to maintain control over key positions.
And what about the West Group of forces? How did they fare in the last 24 hours?
The West Group improved their tactical positions and engaged several Ukrainian mechanized and territorial defense brigades. We repelled 8 Ukrainian counterattacks and inflicted serious losses, including 600 Ukrainian servicemen and a variety of military equipment. Among the destroyed assets were a British-made 155mm Braveheart self-propelled artillery piece, an FH-70 howitzer, and an L-119 gun. Additionally, we destroyed 3 electronic warfare stations and 4 field ammunition depots.
That's a substantial victory. Moving to the South Group, what were their key actions?
The Southern Group continued to occupy more advantageous positions in the Donetsk People's Republic. We defeated multiple Ukrainian formations, including the 54th and 93rd Mechanized Brigades and the 95th Airborne Assault Brigade. The Ukrainian forces suffered approximately 550 casualties. We also destroyed a number of advanced artillery systems, including US-made M777 howitzers and UK-made FH-70 howitzers.
It seems like the Southern Front was very active. What can you tell us about the Center Group's performance?
The Center Group made significant advances into Ukrainian defenses, engaging a mix of mechanized and infantry brigades. We repelled 9 counterattacks and inflicted losses of over 530 Ukrainian servicemen. Additionally, we destroyed several pieces of military hardware, including armored personnel carriers and artillery units such as the M113 armored vehicle from the U.S.
Very impressive. Now, the East Group, what were their main actions over the last 24 hours?
The East Group continued to improve their positions along the front line. We engaged and defeated formations from the 61st and 72nd Mechanized Brigades and repelled a counterattack from the 116th Territorial Defense Brigade. Ukrainian losses amounted to 115 servicemen, a tank, and several armored vehicles. This allowed us to further solidify our positions in key areas.
And how did the DNEPR Group contribute to the operation?
The Dnipro Group focused on Ukrainian forces in the Zaporizhia and Kherson regions. We inflicted losses on the 118th Mechanized Brigade, 141st Infantry Brigade, and 128th Mountain Assault Brigade. Ukrainian forces lost about 75 servicemen, 2 tanks, and 5 vehicles. We also targeted concentrations of manpower and equipment, weakening their defensive capabilities.
Now let's talk about air and missile strikes. How did they contribute to the day's operations?
Our air and missile forces played a critical role in the operation. We damaged the infrastructure of a military airfield, a workshop for producing unmanned aerial vehicles, and 4 warehouses storing these drones. Additionally, Russian aerospace forces shot down a Ukrainian MiG-29 fighter jet, and our air defense systems intercepted a French-made Hammer-guided bomb, 20 Czech-made Vampire rockets, and 13 Ukrainian drones.
It seems like a significant air operation. Let's talk about the Kursk region, where there's been some notable activity. What's the situation there?
In the Kursk region, our North Group has continued offensive operations, liberating settlements such as Uspanovka and Borky. We also defeated Ukrainian mechanized, tank, and airborne assault brigades. Ukrainian forces attempted 5 counterattacks in this area, but all were repelled. We inflicted further losses, including up to 40 Ukrainian personnel and 4 armored combat vehicles.
That's quite a defensive effort. What about the broader air and artillery strikes in the Kursk region?
Airstrikes and artillery fire were highly effective in targeting Ukrainian concentrations in the Kursk region. We hit Ukrainian mechanized and airborne assault brigades and neutralized several key assets, including tanks and armored vehicles. Additionally, our reconnaissance and search operations are ongoing to identify and destroy enemy sabotage groups attempting to penetrate deeper into Russian territory.
And what's important to understand about Kupiansk direction?
Russian troops are gradually approaching the left bank of the Oskol. After the transfer of some units of the Ukrainian armed forces from here to the Kursk region, the front gradually began to sag, which allowed Russian troops to make a breach in the defense and begin to move. In parallel, operational tactical aviation is working on Kupiansk, and the number of FABs used here has increased at least 2-fold. From the Ukrainian side, reports about this section of the front do not inspire optimism. If the pace of advance of the Russian armed forces continues, then Kupiansk and its garrison will begin to be closed from 2 sides, while the assault on the city itself, like the rest of the city recently, may not be required or will be required minimally, as in the case of Novogradovka in the Pokrovsk direction.
Colonel, thank you for providing such a detailed briefing on the current military situation. Your insights are invaluable to our understanding of the conflict's dynamics. And thank you to our listeners for tuning in. Join us next time as we continue to provide up-to-date coverage on global military affairs. Stay with us for more updates and expert analyses on global defense and security issues. Stay informed, stay secure.
Our forces are currently focused on advancing our positions and neutralizing Ukrainian military capabilities. We will continue to push forward, repel counterattacks, and achieve our operational objectives. The situation is still evolving, but we are committed to maintaining momentum. A long-range ballistic missile fired from Yemen has hit central Israel, sparking a fire, according to the Israeli military. The missile triggered air raid sirens in Tel Aviv and across central Israel, including the Ben Gurion International Airport, prompting residents to seek shelter. There were no reports of casualties or damage, and the airport authority said normal operations resumed shortly after.